think I may have a bad wheel bearing up here. Yeah, she got some slop in her. That super sucks because these are hard to service. You got to press the bearings in and out. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are once again back with my 1995 Ford Escort wagon, which is parked out in the driveway at the moment because this is being filmed many months after the events of this video. If this is your first visit to the channel, there is a playlist for the Escort and I'll link it right up there and down the description for you. In today's video, I'm going to illustrate to you guys me taking a big L on a project, which does not happen often, but you know, it does happen. You can't have every tool, you can't have every skill. Eventually you're going to run out of luck, skill, knowledge, whatever. And I probably ran out of them all here. So this is how not to service a front wheel drive wheel bearing, because ultimately I didn't succeed. First of all, I'll just cut right to the chase for the people that might be having this problem and need to get their car fixed. I think for 99.9% of people, the right thing to do is going to be what I ended up doing, which is just take your knuckle assembly down to your local shop and have them press the bearing in and out for you. With about 12 months ago prices, the bearing and the labor to have that done cost me about 225 bucks. And that was the highest quality bearing set I could find and shop labor that was probably not at a bargain. But even so, 225 bucks is not the worst thing in the world. At the time of recording the footage of this video, I did not have that press right there. I mentioned that I attempted to buy it and it was out of stock, and that's what happened. I also do end up buying a front wheel bearing service kit, which has just got some cups and adapters and stuff that you will see later in the video, that even with this press, I would probably still need the bits and bobs that come in that kit to be able to do the job. If you were to replicate that kit and this press in right now dollars, that would be over $1,000 worth of stuff. And I still don't know if that would work. So unless you're like me anyway, and you're a bit of a tool hoarder and you don't mind having this kind of investment and stuff like this, your best bet is probably just to pay somebody the $100 of labor and just let them take care of it for you. Also, I'm completely willing to blame my own ignorance for the result I got. I've never attempted to service a front wheel drive wheel bearing before, or a press-in front wheel drive wheel bearing. So kind of flying blind. I mean, I've used lots of different press tools over time, and I don't think I was doing anything incredibly wrong, but maybe I was, I don't know. So not having the right skills, not having the right tools is what led me down the path I got to. And here in the future, I've now obtained better skills, I hope, better tools, I think, and it would be interesting to try this again. I am considering buying a used knuckle assembly from the opposite side of the vehicle just to try it out, and just to try and teach myself more about it to see if there was something that I was really doing wrong or if it was just an issue of the tools or what. I'm undecided if that's something I want to do or not. My Escort is the second generation Escort that I have had anything to do with, and it is also the first one to ever need a wheel bearing or a front wheel bearing. I don't think that's really a thing that happens on these cars a lot. I think buying a spare to tear down would be kind of a waste of money. We'll see how much I can get one for. The ones I'm seeing right now are about 75 or 80 bucks. And then if I wanted to build it back up, it would cost me the 125, 150 bucks for parts again, but blah, blah, blah. Also, the events you're gonna see in the footage that's coming up took place over about 4 or 5 weeks. That's why you'll hear the plan evolve over that time. It may not be apparent because we're just set up in a vise, and the vise looks the same if it's July or February. But that's what was going on. My first thought was that I was just gonna drive the car to my dad's shop because he has the Harbor Freight version of this press, which has let me down more than once, and I really didn't think would do the job anyway. That was the first plan. That plan then became, well, I'll just buy the front wheel drive service kit and try that. Of course, you'll see that doesn't work. And in between those steps, I tried to buy this press, and that also didn't work just because of the timing. Consequently, I'm kind of glad that didn't work because the Escort project ended up costing quite a bit more money than I was planning on at the time. So not buying that guy right then ended up being a good thing. But all of that is why the video ends up coming out the way it comes out. It is difficult to give a video like a first, second, and third act when you don't really know what's going to happen ahead of time. And this is one of those videos where that was absolutely the case. All I knew going in was that we had a problem, so we had our struggle in the first act, knew it needed a wheel bearing. We spent a whole lot of second act time, and then third act went, pay this guy and let him do it. There's only so much I could really harvest out of that, but for some of you guys that just like seeing stuff in the shop and like seeing some of the approaches I take toward things, this video is for you. I'll repeat, this is not instructional because the only instructions here is that you can pay someone else to do it and they'll get it done. So that is ultimately what I had to do. I'm not ashamed to admit it, but at the same time, it's something that I would certainly like to take on again. One, because I don't like getting beaten, and two, because I think I can actually do it. I think this is the tool that will make it possible or much easier to do. But anyhow, on with the show. So let's spend a few minutes talking about my really poor options for how to deal with this thing. The only way for me to even order parts in time for me to get this done over this weekend was going to be to order like straight up junk from AutoZone. Because right now I don't have a running moving vehicle. This was kind of a bold decision on my part. Kind of my decision, kind of not. This car was like heinously terrible to drive, but you could drive it. So any parts would have to be delivered here. Anything Amazon Prime or anything like that was all no-name brand junk, whatever. Same thing with AutoZone, just no-name junk. And I knew this was coming, which is why I didn't prepare for this, because I just didn't want to do it. As this all presses together, a handful of people have had decent luck with bearing presses to do this, which are just like a $80, $90 tool, something like that you can buy and do this. And I could have bought one of those on Amazon, it'd be here in a couple days. An even bigger handful of people are like, no, this won't work unless you have a hydraulic press. And even the manufacturer's instructions on a lot of the bearings that they sell say right in the listing, you must have a hydraulic press. It's like, well, I don't have a hydraulic press, but my dad does. Kind of the problem there is it's a Twinkie 20-ton Harbor Freight press like most people have, and it's okay. So yeah, 20 tons, maybe not. The other issue is maybe the stuff I'm asking it to do is just way in excess of 20 tons, but it's failed me a couple times over the years. I'm afraid this would be one of those times too. However, I don't have a whole lot of better choices. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is I'm going to clean this thing up as well as I can. Like I think somewhere in here is a snap ring you got to take out. This seal is going to have to come out, and this seal is actually still okay, but it's still going to have to come out. So I'm just going to take a wire brush and start cleaning all this crap up just to make it a little easier to tear down. Sort of the same thing with some of these other fitment locations. Make that stuff easier to take apart. Not that the car didn't need the work, but one of the reasons I'm doing the work right now, and in a week or two, this car needs to go to my dad's house because it's the only thing I've got that will transport all the crap that needs to come back here. So the plan, albeit a bad one, is I've just ordered good parts. I ordered an SKF bearing set and everything else. And the bearing sets, for whatever reason, they come with the hub, but don't come with the seal. It's like, what the? Just ordered that. I think it's going to take like 2 weeks to get here. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is clean this thing up, and I'm going to put the car back together with this thing, and it'll drive from here to their house just fine on this wheel bearing. The brakes and stuff were the way bigger issue, although that doesn't make me feel good. I decided I would actually do this myself. I actually attempted to order a $700 hydraulic press because I've been needing one anyway, and the only one that I actually want to own that I can afford happened to be on sale. Well, it also happened to be not in stock, so order got refunded and all that good stuff. I'm like, well, that sucks. But in the meantime, I ordered this bearing service kit, which is more or less just like a puller kit. And I thought, well, if anything, I'll need arbors to go with the hydraulic press, which is true. Turns out most of this stuff, in fact, almost all of it, was going to be completely useless for what I need to do to that thing. So what is probably going to happen is I am going to do what everybody else does and end up taking this into a shop and have them press that out for me because I'm kind of screwed. But before we go that far, what I'm going to try and do, these are 3 pieces from the kit I just showed you, just 2 regular old washers and then this small arbor that will actually stack down on the bearing that I need to push out, or not the bearing, the edge of the hub. So I have a way to actually push against that. And the bad idea I've got to try that is this, I don't know, I think this thing's like a 12-ton puller. It's for brake drums and brake rotors. It isn't for anything quite this small, but it'll probably work. Or at least it'll probably, go on there. If you have your dust shield still, you are hosed. This will not work, as I'm going to be pulling up against the remnants of the dust shield. And I'm also going to need this, junk quality Harbor Freight socket to press up against, because the bar in this thing will just fall right out otherwise. Holy crap, I'm going to need an impact. And I'm just trying to kind of get everything centered up as well as I can now. I'm not actually trying to tighten it up. I'm just trying to get it set up. Yeah, looks like I've got some more dust shield to rip off the other side of this thing. All right, so that is as squared up as I'm going to be able to get it, which is not very square at all. Believe it or not, the ratchet strap is actually part of this kit. You put the ratchet strap around it to hold the jaws together. Looks janky, seems janky, works awesome. This assemblage of things is getting on the very small side for this puller, but we'll give it a shot. Got nothing to lose. Well, she's getting tight. Yeah, she's getting tighter now. Oof. We're gonna go full face shield on this one in case something explodes. I think it's still just pushing on the bearing or the hub. Oh boy. Ugh. Something just got easier to turn. Did it work? That would be cool. Legit can't tell. I think I'm just mining that socket. Not so bad. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to ditch that spacer from the bearing puller kit I had in it. So it's too big, pushing on the outside of things. So if I can get this thing reset. Yeah, this is real ugly. It's pushing all kinds of crooked and everything else, but we're gonna try it. Because if it already broke loose, it shouldn't take much more to keep it going. It's just cocking again, I think. I don't know if I'm making progress or not. I am. I made significant progress. Wow. All right then. Maybe significant enough I don't need the puller. I'll show you guys. That used to be flush up here. I have pushed it down like that whole bronze color. That's probably a 1/4 inch that I've pushed that thing. I'm gonna try and get on there with a punch and see if I can just hammer it on out. Because now that it has started moving, it shouldn't be hung up anymore. And we'll probably continue to want to move. Make sure the vise is plenty tight. Yep, she's on the way. Sweet. And as I expected, it took this inner race with it. I think that's why these kits come with a new thing, because I know that's going to happen. So somewhere here I'm looking to see a snap ring, probably on the other side. Correctamundo, gigantic snap ring. I'm hoping my Kinepex set has a set big enough for that, because those are large. These are about the biggest I got, and there they could easily be like 4 sizes bigger. Let's see if I can get it or not. You can also see that seal, it's totally shredded, by the way. Ooh. So at one side of it, this side is actually hung up. I'm just gonna try and tap it around, see if I can get it to break free. Just got a little pointed punch here. I'm gonna work on that for a little bit and we'll catch up. So I got it out of there. And the secret was, for one, I needed to reposition it in the vise. And two, I was driving the clip with the grain. So I was driving it from this direction. So when I hit it, it was springing instead of trying to expand. And I was able to just walk it around, got it with the old Kinepex and snagged her right on out of there. So now, I want to say the hard part's over, but I bet I'm wrong. But now is the time to try and get this guy pushed out of there. I need to look at that for a few minutes and figure out what my next setup's gonna look like. So I think the move here is to just go full gorilla and just start trying to beat it on out of there. It is only gonna come out from this side. So I'm beating it toward the snap ring, or rather where the snap ring was. And every time I hit it, it's just running away in the vise, even though the vise is cranked ultra tight. So I'm losing half my impact power just to the movement of the vise. It does look like I was making a difference. It was on the way. So I'm just gonna set her right on the bench. So I'm just gonna put her right on the bench like that and give her the old wallop. Considering the air hammer. It's a shame in all these pullers and everything I don't have anything more elegant. I think I got it cocked in there. I think I need to beat this side, preferably not beat myself. It's not that time of day yet. Yeah, it looks like I need to just keep working right around in here. Another risk I'm running into here is as I continue to peen this, if I peen it the wrong way, I'll be shoving it into the hub and that'll make life harder. Hydraulic press would be really nice right about now. You know, it's not the right way to do it, but just to avoid that issue, I'm gonna start beating on this inner race. Of course, this bearing's already trashed, so who cares, but that's not something you'd normally wanna do. Also, I've got this gigantic brass punch. Right now, I wish it wasn't brass, but I do want gigantic because I wanna put as much of my force into the hit as I can. Oh yeah. It'd probably be even better if I wasn't doing this on wood. Well, if I don't do it, it ain't gonna be from lack of beating on it. I think maybe it's moved a little. I think I am gonna try the air hammer. This has taken 1,000 years. I'm about to regret not fixing this thing. That spring doesn't really hold the bits, so they fly out about half the time. It's a good time. Okay, different plan. Reassembly of this thing is going to require some differential heating anyway, which means I'm going to heat one part and cool another part. So I'm just going to start heating this with the torch anyhow, and just see if I can get the rust and stuff that's been holding on to that for 25 years to start breaking loose. So I'll just go around it on both sides for a good long while. I'm almost out of map gas, so I hope I've got enough. Really all I want to happen is for the rust that's holding this together to break loose. All right, well that probably did nothing, but let's try the air hammer again. Hope for the best. See, that's what I was talking about. Garbage. Well, hell with it. I'm just gonna put the heat to it, just like crazy, and then we'll just let it cool and maybe it'll break free. I doubt it. I got a feeling this thing's gonna go to a shop with a hydraulic press just like it is now. Okay, not that it was practical to try and heat that up with a MAP gas torch anyway, but it did give me some time to think about things while it's hot. Is if that ring is holding the backing plate on or the dust shield on, turning it over and trying to smack the bearing through it may not be working for me. I may need to take a ring to put around that, which I think I can get out of that bearing puller kit to support back here, and see if the bearing and the, I don't know, that cone or whatever will come off as one piece, maybe? That cone thing is what the snap ring went into too, so I don't really know how the dust shield assembled to that, but it won't hurt to put it up on a ring and give it a shot. See if I got one that'll fit. Almost. Yep. I can feel the heat coming off of that thing, which is good. That's what we were trying for. She's warm out at the edges, but she's not hot. We'll go air chisel again and see what happens. Well, what's left of the dust shield isn't loose, so that didn't do anything for us. Does give me another idea though. If you've been screaming at me for about the last 10 minutes that I should just use the bearing puller set that's for pulling bearings, you are about 20 minutes faster to the conclusion than I am. But here we are with exactly that. This thing says don't use impact tools. I'm prone to believe it. Oh boy, that's tight. It is also not in the 1/8" socket. I don't know what metric options I have, but I bet it's one of them. 27, biggest I have. Oh boy. Yeah, we're gonna get a breaker bar and some face protection. Time to put this weed on it. Or just spin the vise around. One of the few things I don't like about my Harbor Freight vise is these rotation locks are not the strongest. Let's try her again. Thinking this through and making sure I'm doing the right thing. Pretty sure I am. Oh boy. Oh, it feels like something just moved. I don't know if it's thread stripping or stuff on the way. I can see this is drawn in crooked too. It's got a slope sitting toward you. So I think I'm gonna reposition things and see if I can get a cleaner pull, because pulling it crooked isn't gonna help anything. See if we made any difference too before this thing shatters into a million pieces and goes through my chest at 300 miles an hour. Still moderately warm. And I seized the bejesus out of that screw because it didn't want to go in very cleanly. And that's going to need a hammer to be taken apart. I don't think it moved at all. Good grief. Try the same approach with this guy upside down. Or maybe there's one that fits a little better. Oh yeah, that's like a glove right there. Okay, we'll keep after it. Yeah, I'm really not sure if I should be using that washer there or not. It came with a couple washers. I suppose it probably came with instructions too. Okay. I'm actually gonna say that's promising. Oh boy. Yow. Okay, do we put the black iron pipe on it too? Yep. So you guys can't see it real well, but I'm gonna put about a 3-foot snipe on this thing and just give her, running out of room to swing it. Yep. What I don't want to do is break my vise. That would make me unhappy. Pretty tempted to use an impact they told me not to use on it. Right now I'm just trying to shock it. Something happening. Doesn't look like she's drawing down crooked this time. Take back what I said about those locks and the vise. So I got to be putting every bit of probably 400 or 500 foot-pounds on this thing right now. I think I'm going to bust this loose and lubricate between the washer and the bolt head. Oh boy! Even getting it loose is kind of fun. There we go. And this is just copious amounts of anti-seize. I think my next move is going to be to get this thing just murder rated tight and then leave it that way for overnight-ish or whatever. Okay, that has officially had the Swede put to it. All right, I'm just going to leave it like that overnight. If it should happen to spring apart in the middle of the night, that'd be just fine by me. I'm also, you know, kind of out of options, but I'm beginning to wonder if, like, for instance, my dad's little Twinkie Harbor freight press would have popped this thing. I'm betting it would not have, so I've laid on stuff this hard before and ended up having to take it to a machine shop anyway, which is ultimately why I decided not to drive it to his house, because I think that's what would have happened anyhow. I would have gone through all the effort to reassemble it fully, then take it to his place, disassemble it, not work, and then have to get a ride to a machine shop on a Sunday, which good luck. So anyway, we'll check up on this tomorrow, maybe a couple days, we'll see. So feeling the crushing desperation setting in, I came out here last night and gave her another good crank, which might have put like another 1/30th of a turn on the thing. I'm turning it so hard that I can't hardly keep the vise locked down, and I can't keep my bench still. This bench probably weighs about 300, 400 pounds, and it's a full 8 feet long. So it's not that easy to bend the thing around, and I was doing it. So in complete desperation, I took that whole assembly with the puller still on it as tight as I could get it, and I put it in the freezer overnight. So let's go grab it and see what it looks like, see if it did me any good. Betting it's gonna look frosty and have done nothing. I also noticed the puller was cocked on it, so that might be some of my problems too. So the plan here is to get it set back up and see if I can Swede it a little more even, I guess. Bag was on it just to try and keep the freezer a little cleaner. You might be able to see, I think the puller is touching off on that side. So I may have to disassemble it just to try again, but we'll see. Ooh. And that was me pushing against the bench with my foot as hard as I can, so like rowboating the thing. I got it to move a little. I'm gonna shock it with the hammer and punch, and probably not gonna do anything. We'll try it. And I can pretty much promise that did nothing. So now I'm gonna take it apart and see if we made any progress whatsoever through all these efforts. Getting it apart is proving to be a good time too. Oh boy. Whew. Well, I'm glad nothing happened because you guys couldn't hardly see anything anyway. I am just now remembering I coated all that with anti-seize. So I'm gonna put some gloves on. Also remembering that bolt's 8 miles long. Oh, it's all plenty cold, I guess you would expect. Pretty confident that went nowhere. Here you can see the snap ring groove in there, and I don't think the bearing budged. I mean, maybe really slightly on one side or the other, but I think that's some of the problems. I don't have a great way to actually get centered up on the thing. This collar allows it to walk around a little too much, and its next smaller size gets down on this thing, which I think is supposed to press out of it. So otherwise, I don't know how you get that backing plate on and off. And it is a separate part. I found a part number for it. I don't know. Maybe I will just set it up to pull against there just to see if we can get the bearing out. And in one of my final moments of desperation, we probably are gonna try an impact gun, because ultimately, if the bearing puller doesn't pull bearings, who cares if I break it? You know, if it doesn't work, which I'm not gonna blame the tool. This is just a ridiculous job. But if it's not gonna do the job, who cares? So I'm gonna set up on it again here with that smaller coupler, and I'm gonna make getting it square more of a mission. And I think I have. I'm not so sure about this, meaning this might actually be working. So maybe I just had my setup wrong the whole time. Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm just spinning the vise there. In fact, it's probably totally out of frame for you guys, pretty much. And it looks like the arbor there has shifted, so it might be running into the casting again. Oh boy. And all I've done here, it looks like, is take the bottom of this thing and just flare it out. So where the shape of this thing was on a taper, it looks like that has now permanently become a member of it. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that or not, but there's like some crown in it now. So now I'm thinking, screw it. Strap up with the ear protection and get the impact out and let it eat. If it's not gonna work, then fine, it's not gonna work. I say ear protection, I meant eye protection. Also ear protection, but you get it. Here comes a bad idea. And of course, like the first impact out of the gun, the compressor came on, so I had almost no air. Let's try again. But the impact gun did absolutely nothing, meaning it didn't even budge that nut. So I have that bolt way tighter than the impact could get it. And I fully believe that gun had run up 500 or 600 pounds pretty easily. So I think I'm screwed. I think that's gonna have to go somewhere. And I'm just not looking forward to it. Whole reason I work on my own stuff is I don't trust anybody else. Anyway, last ditch effort. This thing's gonna be significantly cool for a little while. We'll let it come out here. It'll probably get up to, I'm gonna guess about 90 out here before the day's over, and just get some more temperature in it. Maybe I'll get lucky and something will move, but I really doubt it. We'll see. So that was just never gonna work. Sure enough, this top ring is a separate piece, and I just don't have any way to fixture this thing with the stuff I bought to be able to press on it evenly to get it out. And I made absolutely no headway with that at all. So this time the Escort has beaten me. And whenever an Escort beats you, you usually have to pay extra for it. This is no exception. I'm gonna load up my box of shame here and take this down to a local shop that says they'll take care of that for me. And I'll let you know how much it costs. I'm not expecting a lot, but at this point, you know, it is what it is. Car's got to get back together. I also have my suspicions that any press I could afford, meaning any press under like 2 or 3 grand, not that I want to pay that much for a press, is unlikely to push that thing out anyway. I don't think like a 20-ton hobbyist press is going to get that done. I think it's going to require something kind of beefy. The other good news is this is a shop that specializes in alignments and steering, and the next thing after this is back together is the car needs an alignment. So if these guys do good work for me here and it's nice and easy breezy, I've got a good alignment shop to go to in the area now. So I haven't had to take anything into a shop since I've lived where I'm at now. So all new and foreign to me. Well, as I'm often fond of saying on the channel, stupid is supposed to hurt. And in this case is no different. And I'm also not afraid of showing you guys my mistakes when I make them. Even if I have to pay for it a couple times, it just is what it is. If it helps somebody else out there be a little less dumb than I am, that's great. So it's looking like I probably could have pressed this thing in and out if I'd have understood better how it works, which now is easier to see now that it's got new parts in it. The good news and bad news of that is I got a feeling I'm gonna get my opportunity to do that again because this thing feels like it's pretty bindy or binding up. It does not spin very nicely at all. It feels really tight, and with a new bearing, that can happen if you don't press them in squarely, or if you press on the inner when you should have been pressing on the outer of the race, or whatever. When I spin this thing, you can probably hear it. Now that could all just be in my mind, and that's just how a new bearing sounds. I don't know, this is the first time I've ever tried this job, but it's usually not a good sign when they sound like that. Normally you want to hear pretty much silence. You want it to be tight and smooth. And this thing, if you reverse direction, I can feel it get harder when I do that. Like right there, it's really hard, and I can feel it get notchy. So I think they probably torched that bearing. Right now this is a baseless accusation though, so could be fine, don't know. So that's the first way I could pay for this. The way I have already paid for it is they charged me 1 full hour of labor to press that bearing in and out. 85 bucks. I asked them how much labor it would have been if I just brought them the whole car. So they had to tear apart all the steering, all the front suspension, everything else, tear that thing out of there and do the job. He said 2.5 hours. I get a feeling they assigned me a tax there because they probably just didn't want to do this job, and they probably didn't like me bringing them my own parts, which I only did because I wasn't planning on having anybody else do the work. And again, all baseless accusations, just an observation. An hour of labor for that with the right tools and know-how seems crazy to me, but whatever, it costs what it costs. So potentially if I have to replace this bearing again, and you want to throw this labor in on top of it, this could be a $300 series of oopses on my part. And if it is, it is. It's the way it goes. And here's the part of the story where I wouldn't really mind paying what I paid to have this done if the work turns out to be good, which let's hope it is, because they clearly have an expertise that I do not possess. This is what's remaining of the old dust shield, and I thought all this stuff had to press apart to get the bearing out of there because that's how it looks in the Shilton manual, and that's kind of how it looks on every other hub assembly I've seen. This is still in here. I can't imagine the guy that did this put that back in there, and it doesn't look like it's been disturbed. I mean, there's no like fresh markings or anything. If I go all around it, all I see are the places where I was doing things wrong and where I adulterated it. So I'm reasonably confident that I may have only set this up for a correct pull like once or twice of the many different times I tried it. So I think my odds of doing this successfully, if I were to try it again, have increased now that I understand that it's most likely this stuff doesn't need to go anywhere. That really all I need to do is find a way to support it from the knuckle itself and push that stuff on out of there. So short of putting the thing back together and driving it around for a while, this is going to conclude the how not to install a wheel bearing video. I really hope that this is all just in my mind, the way this thing feels, and that in a few hundred miles it's just going to break in and it'll be good, a nice long lasting repair. But we'll see what happens. Of course, you guys will get an update if it doesn't go that way. And you know, maybe in a year or two I'll drop a comment down there and just say, yep, everything's still fine or whatever. So I imagine in 5 or 10,000 miles, this is either gonna be dead again or be fine. As always, guys, I appreciate you stopping in for this video. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.